Greetings and welcome to another edition of Tech Tuesday presented by Delta Media Group, where we can't help but wonder why there's never been a Jane Bond, right? Like, don't we think it's about time for a female 007? I feel like I realize that would change the dynamic of the film quite a bit, but for a franchise that's been running for like 200 years, maybe it's time to try something a little bit different, right? All right, so today we are going to take a look at Open House Connector. Now this is something that we have, we've got a few videos on, we've done in the past, but we keep adding functionality to it, so it felt like now would be as good a time as any to go in and give it another look. So to get there, I am just going to go down to Listings, and then down to Open House Connector. Now, the first time you go here, it'll basically have you activate it. So you'll come across a page here that basically requests that you turn it on. So let me just jump into a different user here, and let's give this one a shot. And I'm just going to do the same thing, go down to Listings, Open House Connector, and there we go. So if you haven't turned it on before, the first thing you'll run into here is a page that says Enable Open House Connector. And all you do is click that button, and that basically turns the system on. So let me switch back to my other user here. There we go. So back to Listings, Open House Connector. Now I will also mention that I am in DeltaNET 6 here, so I could also just type into this search box Open House Connector, and it would come from the autocompleter, so I could find my way there that way. Or if you were here in DeltaNET 5, it will also be under the Listings tab in the side navigation. So we're going to go back to that page. Now once you've activated the system, you will see something similar to this. Now the only thing that will be different in your version initially is that this Your Open Houses section will be empty. So this is open houses that you have hosted before, basically. So to just give you a little background on what Open House Connector is for, it is effectively a digital sign-in sheet for your open houses. So at its very core, that is what it's for. You would set this up as a sign-in sheet at one of your open houses or an open house that you're hosting, and you would just have people that come into the open house sign in through the app. Now, as you can see over here in this Get the App section, you can download it from the App Store, so that would be from the Apple App Store, so you can run it on an iPad is really kind of the intention there. You can download it on the Google Play Store, so that would be the intention there would be like an Android tablet. Conceivably, that can also work on a Chromebook. It depends on the Chromebook, but there are some that can run Android or Google Play Store apps, and if your Chromebook can do that, then you could run this on a Chromebook. And then lastly, we have added the ability for you to just use it in a web browser, which is what I'm going to demonstrate. But functionally, it works exactly the same. That just gives you the additional option of if you don't have a tablet, either an iPad or an iPad Pro or an Android tablet of any kind, you can just use a laptop and just run it in our laptop screen. Just know that the whole idea is, as a sign-in sheet, people would be coming in and signing in on that. So, something to keep in mind, certainly in this day and age, as there are more precautions when it comes to in-person open houses for sure. So. But those are the different ways that you can load this up. Now over here, you have login credentials for this app. Now what this is for is if you do go with like an App Store app or the Google Play Store app, so you're running it on a separate device, when you first log in, or when you first launch the app, you'll have to log into it. And what that does is it knows, or that basically tells the app who the leads that come in on that app should go to, who they should be applied to, whose open house connector they should go into, and what open houses that should load, so that it knows to kind of default to your open houses and allow you to choose from your company's open houses. So that is how you get it going initially. So the first thing I'll go over is we'll take a look at the different options and different settings down here and kind of go over what each of those does, and then we'll take a look at the app itself to see what you can do in there. So down here we have our different sections for the different things we can do. So first is open houses, and we will go back over this in detail a little bit later. But what this does is show you all the open houses that you've hosted. The next one, we have survey questions. So this lets you customize these survey questions that the app will present to the user. And then lastly, we have the settings tab, which basically gives you some control over how the app works and what it presents to the user, that kind of thing. So what we have here first is the sign-in form section. So first, you have the prompt, which shows up right at the beginning of the app, and we'll go over that as we actually look at the app itself. Next, we have the user's first name and email address. So this is just giving you a preview of what that form is going to look like, basically what it is going to request from the user that signs in. So by default, just that full name and email address are required. And then lastly, you have some options here under phone number. So you can either disable that altogether, so it doesn't ask the user for a phone number. You can make it active so that it will ask for their phone number but not require it. Or you can make it required so that, like the other two fields, they have to enter the phone number in order to basically submit the form. So, and you'll see it when we look at the app, but they'll fill out that information, submit it, and then that takes them on to the next step. And the next step is going to be kind of dependent upon what your settings are below. So the next piece here is the Open House Connector guest import. So you have option here to either automatically import everyone who signs in through the app, or you can leave that turned off. And that'll basically have the app store everyone that signs in, but it won't actually import anyone until you tell it to. And then you can tell it to either through the app itself or through the DeltaNET on the Open Houses page, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. The next thing you can do is any app that anyone that comes in through this app, you can have them automatically attached or connected to a specific group when they come in. So anybody that signs up through the Open House Connector app will automatically be placed in a customer group that is named for the open house they attended. So if they went to an open house at 123 Main Street, when they sign in through the app and you import them into the system or they're imported automatically, they'll automatically be added to the 123 Main Street group no matter what. But if you want everybody that signed in through any open house to also go into a group, so that everyone will be in their own group for the specific open house they attended, plus they'll be in one additional group, you would specify the name of that group here. Now the nice thing about that is that not only could you set up an email campaign or send out an email blast to people who attended a specific open house, but you could set up an email campaign that goes to all users that signed up at any open houses. So it just allows you to kind of fine-tune your marketing that way. And the more you fine-tune your marketing to the people you are marketing to, the more you speak to them, the more you engage with them. So that is the idea behind this functionality. Now down to the next one, we have the survey autoresponder. So we can say here, this message will be displayed at the top of the survey autoresponder to guest email message. So what this does is when the user goes in and they sign up for an open house or they sign up at an open house, when this is turned on, the system will send them an autoresponder with information about taking the survey. So you have some options when it comes to that survey. Either they can be presented with the survey when they first fill out the app, so they would put in their name, their contact information, and then run through the survey right at that point. So the idea would be those would be questions that make sense to a user who hasn't yet looked through the property. Now, if you want your questions to be tuned more to someone that has already looked through the property and has asked after the fact, then you'll want to send them an email instead, or send them those survey questions in an email instead. So you can see here, this turns on the survey, and then down here we have survey questions will no longer appear in the app and will be sent to the guest in the form of an email after or a link in the email after the open house is over. So if I switch that, what that's going to do is have the survey turned on, because now we can't turn it off. So the survey is turned on at that point, but instead of presenting them with the survey right when they sign in, it'll send them an email later. It just comes down to the kind of questions that you ask. So are you asking questions like, just are you working with another agent, which generally you're gonna ask everybody. Or are you asking questions about the property itself? Because if you're asking questions about the property and that open house itself, then you're going to want those questions to go out after the fact, because you want them to have looked at the property before they're presented with those questions. In which case, you would choose to email the survey instead of leaving it in the app. So go ahead and switch that off, and then the survey will be turned on. So that way we'll be able to see it in the app. Now also keep in mind as I go through these, if you make a change to any of these individual sections, you need to save the changes in that section as you go through and do them. Now lastly, we have a miscellaneous option here at the bottom, and we may add more options here over time as we add more settings to this system. But what this one does is the Open House Summary Report. So as you can see here, an email report will be automatically generated containing all of the guests that logged into Open House Connector during an open house, as well as a summary of the survey results. So if you do want to get like a summary email, you would just have this switched on and then you'll get that message. If you're keeping an eye on it as you go, or you're going through and importing manually so you don't feel like you need that summary, you can just switch this off and save it, and then you won't get that summary report. So now we'll switch back to the survey questions interface. So the idea here is we wanted to take a look at what we can do for the survey. So we can either not present it at all, present it right away in the app, or send it out to the user via email later. So those are our options here. The survey itself is controlled under this Survey Questions tab. So from here, these are the questions created ahead of time. Some of these may have been created at the company level, and some of them, you can go in and create as custom pieces for yourself also. So you have the ability to turn these on and off as you see fit, as long as that ability is enabled at the company level. And you can see as I make changes, it updates automatically. So I don't have to save this page. Anytime I make a change, it'll automatically change it for me. And then I can also shift these questions around if I want to change the order they come in. Now these questions are company level questions, so I can only preview them. But these questions that have some additional actions were actually created like custom questions that I went in and created myself. So for those, I can preview them, but I can also edit or delete those questions. So to kind of get a look at that interface, we're just going to click on New Question. And now we would put in our question. This is my question. Now I can select a question type, so I can make that a select. First answer. Second answer. We'll give it a third answer too. Third answer. And we'll allow an other option. So if we save this one, we'll get an idea what this looks like. So here's this is my question. If I go and preview it, you can see that I have my question here. It is going to be multiple choice single answer with an option for other, because I checked the toggle for other, where they could select that and then type in a custom response. Now we'll go back to edit this one. The other question types I can do is a multi-select. This works very similar, only in this case they can select more than one of these options. Other than that, it'll look exactly the same. But you can see the other option goes away in that case. We can do the specific type of question represented by another agent. Now I can't pick the options. I mean, it's either a yes or no here, but the question can be customized a bit. So you do have that option here. Now if I try to save this, you can see it saves, but now one of these is not going to work because I can only have a single question of that type in my survey. So it's going to disable these. Now we'll go back and edit that one. And I can also do a text response. And this is exactly what it sounds like. You can see our box went away because it's not the special question type anymore. And if I preview it, it's just a response box. So they'll have the question and then actually type out a custom response. And then if I want to disable that question, just like the other questions, I can just switch it off. Or if I want to delete it altogether, I can go to Actions and down to Delete, Delete, and that question goes away. So that is all there is to it when it comes to setting up questions. So now we'll take a look at the app, and then once we've taken a look at the app, we'll go back to this Open Houses tab and kind of get an idea what that looks like. So to get into the app, we'll go ahead and demonstrate it in the browser, but like I said, you could download this from the App Store and run it on like an iPad or an Android tablet if you wanted. But we're going to go with using a web browser, and we can see it opens up another tab here. Now if I were going to present this at an open house, I would full screen this browser, and I would also get rid of this other browser tab, because I don't want just anyone that comes into an open house to sign in, I don't want them logged into my DeltaNet. So I would close my DeltaNet tab here and just have one browser window open that has the app in it. Now, for the app itself, you can see that the first thing it does is list out all of my own open houses. And that is because this box will be checked by default, only show my open houses. If I uncheck that, that'll show all the open houses at the company. So if I'm hosting, or I should say, with it checked, it shows only open houses on my own listings. With it unchecked, it shows them for any listing that belongs to any agent at the company. That way, if I'm going to host an open house on behalf of another, or basically on another agent's property or another agent's listing, then, I guess it's not really their property, on another agent's listing, then I would be able to select from those here. Now, if this is a large list, so if you're a bigger company and there are a lot of open houses the upcoming weekend, then you can search for those here. So if I start typing here, it'll actually narrow this list down to matches. Now since I typed in the only thing that's here, we don't see it do anything, but you can see if I type in something that doesn't match that, it goes away. So that is how you would narrow that down if there were multiple open houses, either for your listings or if you have this unchecked for listings that belong to anyone in the company, and you want to be able to narrow those down. So once you find the listing you want, you just click on it, and that starts up the sign-in form. So here we have some property information over on the left, and then at this point it is just a sign-in form. So the way the customer would use it is they would go in, they would see this, it tells them to sign in at the open house, so we're going to click sign in. It asks them for the information based on my settings. Open house, open houser. There we go. We'll say we're attendee at testing.com, and you can see that next is still grayed out because I'm requiring the phone number. We'll put our phone number in there, and then that lights up next, so now I can click on next. Now because I am choosing to present, or basically because my survey is turned on, as per my settings over here, so if we go down to settings, so my survey is turned on and it is not set to email the survey, it is instead set to present it right away, it takes me to my first survey question. So am I being represented by a real estate agent? We'll say no. Am I considering purchasing this property? Sure. Is it further to Cleveland by bus? Well, we know that it's further to Cleveland and by bus, so we're going to go ahead and check both of those. What's the difference between a duck? Well, its shortest leg is both the same. That's just a fact. And now we've answered all the survey questions, so it thanks me for registering. I tap done, and now it's back to the sign-in form, ready for the next user. Now, as the agent, the things that I can do in this app is I can quickly look here and I can see how many people have signed in, so I just have a little counter there at the top. And now I can also go to admin, and I have some additional options here. So we'll just start at the bottom. Because first off, I can provide feedback, so this is just feedback on the app or the functionality, so that sends us feedback to let us know what you think about the app, or if you have any suggestions for it. You can choose to end the open house, which would just close you out of this open house and take you back to that open house selection screen. You can log out altogether, which doesn't take you to the open house selection screen, but all the way back to the sign-in page, which we bypassed by going in through the web app. The web app already knows what our credentials are, so we didn't need to put those in. But there's actually a sign-in page if this were running on like an iPad or an Android tablet, so this would take us back there. Or we can go to the admin dashboard where we have a few different options. So we're going to go to the admin dashboard, and you can see that it is going to ask us to basically verify that we are the admin before it shows it to us. So that way we can't just, open house attendees can't just go in here and see all the sign-ins and things. That PIN is right here at the top in the login credentials. So we'll go back over here, sign in, and there we are. So now we have some more things that we can do related to this open house. Mainly what it does is it will show me all of the guests that have signed in. So it's a very easy way that at the open house through the app, I can go in and see everybody that's signed in, even if I haven't imported them yet, or more importantly, even if the app doesn't have an internet connection at this point. So, let's say that the app itself, let's say that you're at an open house and there is no internet connection there, and your device that you're using, your iPad or your Android tablet, is not a cellular tablet, and it doesn't have Wi-Fi to connect to, so it's completely offline. The cool thing about this app is it will save everything locally, and then when the app or the tablet, the device, does reconnect to the internet, it'll automatically sync all the information up appropriately. So based on your settings, it may automatically upload all your users at that time. But until that happens, they only exist in the app, so this allows you to go in and see them. So from here, you can see I have options to return to the survey or end the open house, which are just like the other options we discussed. Return to survey just takes us back to the main survey page. But as we go through each of our open house attendees that have signed up, if there were a lot here, I could type here to narrow that list down to just filter down to a specific user if I want. Once I have the user I want, I can click on it and I can very quickly see all of their question answers. So if they have, having filled out the survey, I can see all that information. And also, if I am not importing guests automatically, I have an option to mark this guest for import right away. So it's kind of a neat way where right at the open house, instead of later on going in and doing it through the open house connector in the DeltaNET, I can define right off the bat here who I want to import and who I don't. So we'll leave that alone for now, but if I were to click import here and my tablet weren't connected yet, it would just basically mark this one for import, and then when my tablet reconnects, it would actually do the import. Or if it's connected already, then it would just import this one into my DeltaNET. So there you go. That is how the app itself can function, the kinds of things that you can do within the app. So we'll go ahead and return to survey here. There we go. And we're right back where we started. All right, so back into the DeltaNET. Once you have run an open house, that open house will appear here, and you can see this is the open house that just happened, and this little red 1 here means that there is a guest that signed in during that open house that has not yet been imported, and that's because I don't have automatic import turned on. So we'll go ahead and click on it, and you can see it gives me details. So at first we have an overview of all the questions. So if we had a lot of attendees, this aggregates all their question answers together so that I can very quickly see if there's a trend here, if everyone's been answering the questions about the same way. So this is just a breakdown of the questions themselves and the responses, but not the specifics of who responded how. The next thing I can do here is I can click on Perform Guest Import if I just want to import everybody that signed in. So that's just kind of a shortcut there to go through and put them all in. Or I can go here to Guest Overview, and I can see each individual guest, and then import them on their own. So with this one, we can see that they signed in. We have our little identifiers here that show that this one hasn't been imported yet. And let's say I do want to import this one. So I'm going to go down here and click Import Guest. And now I have an additional option to add some notes to this customer. So this customer was great. That's probably not what I'd put there. I'd put something about, and they're interested in a house like this one, but with one more bedroom. That kind of thing. And the idea would be you had a discussion with that customer at the open house. So you, in order to help you remember who that was, you can put that information in, and you can even create a follow-up task at the same time, and then hit import, and that'll go ahead and import the guest for you, along with that note, so that the next time you pull up that customer's profile page, or when you hit that reminder to follow up with them, you'll take a look at their profile page in the DeltaNet, be able to see that note, and that'll kind of refresh your memory as to who that was and how you should go about reaching out to them. So just a bit of a convenience feature there. So we'll close that out, but that is how you would go through with that import. And then this will keep a full history here of all the open houses that you have run and everybody that has signed up at each one, so you can go back and kind of keep track of all that. Now real quick, we'll jump back into the app one more time, and we're going to go to the admin side and then back to the admin dashboard. I forget my password there, 3282. There we are. So now we're logged back in. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to import the guest from here. You can see that I have the same option here. So when I do perform the import from here, I do have the ability also to set up a note and create a task so that I can be reminded to follow up with that customer. So just wanted to point out quick that not only when you import through the DeltaNet, but if you are individually importing guests from the app, you can enter the note right there, which is particularly useful because in those cases you're dealing with a situation where maybe your tablet isn't connected, you're not doing the imports automatically, and it's fresh in your mind because you just spoke to that customer. So maybe you had them sign in, you discussed the listing and discussed their needs for a while, and then when they left the open house, you pull up the tablet and you want to remember them and remember everything you talked about, so you go in and hit this import button and add your notes right away while it's all fresh. So there you go. That is Open House Connector and the kind of functionality that is available in it today. It's how you can go about managing it, how you can go about getting your customers imported, adding information to them as you import them, and keep track of all their survey questions and answers to know how you can best serve them going forward. So, as always, thanks a lot for joining me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns on Open House Connector or anything else, please send an email into support@deltagroup.com or reach out to us over the phone, and we will be happy to help you out. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I will see you again next week.